and welcome everyone to Crystal Eye Essentials Module 2. Very happy to have you all here and thank you for joining us. Firstly, as an Australian headquartered company committed to the spirit of reconciliation, Red Piranha acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and the land, sea and waterways upon which we live and work. We pay our respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders past and present and recognise their strong contribution to connection to land, culture and spirit. My name is Daniel Henderson. I'm a Business Development Manager here at Red Piranha. Today I'll be hosting the session with our lovely and affable Ben Aylett. We also have our awesome Client Services Manager, Jekka, who will be moderating today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll attend to them as soon as we get to the end of the presentation. We will take note of them in order. So please feel free to put them in there and we'll make sure that we give you what you need. Now over to Ben, who is patiently waiting in the wings.
Neil. Okay, so yeah, we're here to do the Crystal Eye Essentials Module 2 training. Now, before we get started, there is a few things we need to make sure we have in order before we can continue. So first of all, you need to have a Crystal Eye Orchestrate account, a Red Piranha Orchestrate account. We should update that. So this is the client dashboard or Orchestrate or whatever it is you know it as, but this is what we covered in the last week's session. So if you've got that, great, we can continue. And you should probably test the credentials to make sure they're right. You can do this by opening the Red Piranha store and then logging in through that way because you will need the username and password to register the appliance with Orchestrate. Now, as Daniel said, we've got the chat on the right-hand side. So if you've got any questions, you can pop them in there and we'll cover them towards the end of the session. And we do use custom certificates. So you will see a warning when you first click on the link that Jekka has given you. Yeah, if you've clicked on it, you get that warning. It's okay to proceed because we know what the device is and what we're connecting to. So without further ado, we'll go into our training objectives. So in this lesson, so by the end of this course, you will know how to register the Crystal Eye appliance, and we'll also be able to go through some basic configuration and tuning steps. We'll also touch on how to get the most out of the raw Crystal Eye appliance. We'll talk about the value partnership with Red Piranha and what we can offer through Crystal Eye. And then we'll also talk about next steps for further information and training. And believe you me, we've got a fair bit of training and the catalogue of training material is growing. So we are actually working on revamping our Crystal Eye Certified Engineer training for 4.5, and that's going to be presented, a week from today. So next week, it's going to be the big one. So make sure you check the events, make sure you're registered, because otherwise you're going to miss out. But don't worry, it will be presented later on as an on-demand course. Now, just recapping Crystal Eye. So if you were with us, like in the initial partner meetings, and then again in Module 1, this should be pretty familiar to you. XDR is a collection of tools and functionalities that make up a technology stack that allow you to implement any tools or tools to your selection to meet your security outcome that you want. So we cover the whole thing there. So I believe that Crystal Eye XDR in particular is actually one of the more efficient ways of either starting your cybersecurity journey or continuing it. Okay, so Module 2 topics. We'll be talking about deployment options, the basic device setup. We'll have a look at the network interfaces. We'll also look at other network controls, the security configuration. We'll check out some of the compliance controls, which are very important. We'll quickly gloss over our reports, but we'll also look at our dashboards, and then we'll go into our support channels. So if you need any additional support, it's really right there at your fingertips. Now, when you get a physical device, like me, you'll be tempted to unbox it, throw the training material to one side. No one needs instructions when you're a technician, and then you'll just plug everything in. This will actually have you come unstuck because you only need to plug in the power the WAN port, or in the Series 20 and up, the WAN 1 port, and then the LAN port, or the primary LAN port when we're talking Series 20 and up. And then you just simply open up your web browser. It'll automatically assign an IP address, and you can then navigate to crystali.lan:81 or 10.10.1.1:81. And that should be all you need to get started. So no need to plug in any monitors or keyboards or mice or anything into the actual appliance itself. This is for factory and field use only. Now, there's a few different ways we can deploy a Crystal Eye appliance. It's actually quite flexible. We have three methods, that is inline NSM, and out-of-band NSM. I'll go into explain these next. So inline NSM, or gateway, inline, gateway mode. This is the simplest and most common deployment we see, especially with the small to medium enterprise area. So this is when we put the Crystal Eye appliance either directly at the perimeter where it takes the place of the router, because it does have those abilities, or it can go just behind the router and then protecting the rest of the network. So this way we can enable all features, and we can give quite comprehensive protection. Inline NSM, this is a way that we can deploy it behind existing firewalls or in front of an existing firewall. So it can go into an existing security stack, and we can turn features on and off as needed. So as we become more comfortable or able to deploy more of these features in the Crystal Eye appliance, we can actually turn them on without interrupting much of the network. So it's really great for existing networks where you want to start slowly incorporating these security controls. Now, out of band, this is more of network monitoring and really just taking advantage of the port mirroring or span port filtering, and it allows us to just do monitoring without really interrupting the flow of traffic at all. So this is great for when we're trying to do things like vulnerability scanning and just more of a network monitoring application without actually getting into that security pipeline between the perimeter and the protected networks. So that's, like it says there, non-intrusive monitoring, and plays nicely with others, most importantly. Now, you've probably already heard some of the acronyms being thrown around at the moment. So that's things like Consolidated Security Platform, Cybersecurity Mesh Architecture, and Extended Detection and Response. The Crystal Eye XDR really covers all this because the ecosystem is actually quite extensive. So we do cover all these methodologies. The Crystal Eye appliances, as you can see there, we've got a bit of a table, and you've got the series 10, 20, 25, and 30. 10, 20, and 25. These are our desktop class appliances, great for small offices or branch offices or the home office. Then you can start getting into more serious stuff. So your Series 30 is a 1RU appliance. The Series 40 is a 2RU appliance, but it's unique in the fact that it's actually a high availability appliance all built into a single chassis. So when we're talking high availability, we don't just mean it's got like a couple of extra ports on it. It's actually got two processors, two main boards, two like dedicated RAM, storage, extended storage, and power supplies. It's actually mirroring two devices in the one chassis. So you can actually get true high availability out of a 2RU rack. And then when we start getting into the more serious side of things, like when we're dealing with data center or telco grade applications, that's when we start looking at the Series 50 through to the Series 80. And we are working on the Series 100. And there's also the Series 200, which is like a fully customized rack of appliances. So we can really sort of extend to meet pretty much any challenge that's offered. Okay, we would have talked about throughput last week. So true security throughput. This is when we are looking at a normal traffic pattern that we expect to see in the office So we don't try to make it easy for ourselves. We actually put our devices through the paces, and when we test them with all of the applications up and running. We don't just say, oh, look, the firewall can handle this, and we just add up the number of the ports and say we've got 4 gigabits of throughput available. That's not the way it's practically done in the field, so we don't see any reason to try and test it using those sorts of shortcuts. Okay, 4.5. Things to look out for with 4.5, which you've now got your hands on. We did have some holdups in deploying 4.5 for AWS. Now pleased to announce that we've got 4.5 available for you to test right now. So we've got things like Passive Encryption Control, Azure Active Directory. We'll have a look at the new updated Threat Hunt dashboard. And we've got the network map has been updated, and there's also a lot of other UI updates. And of course, security patches. Now, when we're talking about security, there's also the threat intelligence that makes up a part of what we offer. So it's all well and good to have a firewall, but without the threat intelligence to back it up, it's pretty useless. So what we do is we contribute to the global security threat intelligence I suppose, community. And we are actually members of the Cyber Threat Alliance. So you can see us right there in the middle. And then you can see all these other sort of semi-grayed out names. So it just gives you an idea of the sort of shoulders we're rubbing with at the moment. In fact, we're doing okay when it comes to contributing to cyber threat intelligence. We have most often placed within the top 3 to 5 every week. And this one, this is where we managed to get like 40 million points as a part of our contribution to that week's cyber threat intelligence. So you can see there, we've only just come second to SANS Lab, but we're ahead of Symantec and Sophos, which we think is a bit of an achievement. Not too bad for a small Australian company, punching well above its weight there. Okay, demonstration time. This is the part we've all been waiting for. What I'll do is I'll share my screen, and we can go through this together. So hopefully you've all jumped on and you've opened up the web browser, and you should be looking at this. If anyone is not looking at this screen, you may need to sort of accept that the certificate is not exactly what you're expecting to see. Again, this is because it's a self-signed certificate. The browser is going to throw an exception, so we just say, yes, that's okay, and we proceed. If you're not seeing this, please shout out in the chat so we know if we need to hold on for a sec. But those that are ready to go, we can log in with our default username. And the password for the training is actually a little different. There it is there. So I will drop that into chat. Get that out of the way. There we go. And there it is. We should be able to go there and log in. And there we go. We're now heading into the first setup wizard. So from here, setting up the Crystal Eye appliance is really straightforward. It's just a lot of clicking next, but please don't race ahead. Let's all do this together. So we've got our getting started here. We've got our installation guide. That needs to be updated. Our installation guide can be found at docs.redpiranha.net, which I'm just popping into chat now. So you find all of our updated support material there. This is for version 4.5 and onwards. Okay, so let's click next. Now, when you're setting up an appliance for the first time, you will need to make sure that it's got access to the internet. In this case, we don't need to change anything because it's already connected. But let's say if you needed to create a PPPoE connection in order to get access to the internet, you can do that. Now, I'll just demonstrate here. I don't expect any of you to follow along. If we wanted to add a PPPoE interface, we can click on Add Interface on our WAN interface, and we can just set it up to say PPPoE. right? You fill in the details. If you're one of the people in those countries where they actually do authentication via VLAN details, I've only seen it a couple of times. It's actually quite interesting how they do that, but you can see that there. You can set all your details, and once you've got your connection set up, you are clear to go on to the next step. So once again, please don't make any changes with networking. If you do, there's a good chance you'll break it, and you'll just have to sit back and watch everyone else play with their devices while you get to just watch the screen. All right, so click on Next. Now, once we've clicked on Next, it will quickly check for a DNS access, because without DNS, things stop working, because it's always DNS. Click Next. Andrew, you're saying you missed a step. Where's the virtual instance you need to launch? You should have received a URL from Jekka. Jekka, if you have a moment, see if you can send a spare URL to Andrew. Andrew, you will also need Orchestrate login details. So what we covered last week, the username and password you use to log into Orchestrate, that will be needed actually very soon. So check your email, Andrew. Jekka says that she's emailed it to you. Well done, Andrew, he's found it. Okay, now we've gone through, made the software updates, and it's now ready for us to register the system. This is where our Orchestrate details come into play. Now, when registering, very, very important. If you pay attention to only one thing in this session, it's this. When you're registering an appliance, you must register the appliance in the name of the organization that's being protected. If you are an MSP and you're setting this up for your client, you register the device in the name of your client, not the MSP. This is incredibly important. Because you'll still be able to see the device. You don't need to register it under the MSP's account in order to manage it. This is something we covered last week. You're actually able to switch between profiles and see those devices registered under end clients. The reason why this is so important is because we do have legal obligations in regards to privacy, sensitive information and so on, where without the explicit okay from the end client, it's actually a bad thing for us to just share information without their okay, because this is potentially very important and very sensitive information. So first of all, we don't want to compromise the client security. And second, we don't want to expose our partners or our MSP partners to any sort of risk or any doubt that they've been given undue access. So, we just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page and we're not putting any businesses or any sort of processes at risk at all. So please, please, please make sure that when you register it, it is in the name of the customer. So I'll say Carl Summer gmail.com. So this is an account that I've set up before. I entered that incorrectly. Let's try that again. Okay. And when you're giving it a system name, just to make it easy for us to do some cleanup afterwards, if you could just put demo underscore 23 6. Where's it today? It's the 15th. 15th? Yes, 15th. But just make sure you put the demo underscore and the date, and let's say a company name. So I'll go, call this one Carl. So that way we can go through the licensing afterwards and clean up the licenses. So we can make things a lot easier for our CSMs like Jekka, make the life them to easier, much easier. Okay. Right, now once we've got all that filled in, sorry, I was just distracted by chat, as we always are. I'm going to click on Register System. And provided I've put in the right email address and password, it should come back and say registered. Now there is a step that's being missed here with the system registration. Normally we'd also set our SIEM level or our device license. Oh, there it is there. Okay, so should all have access to a license. If not, just let us know, see what needs to be done. But I think these devices are actually all good to go. So I'll wait a couple of minutes and make sure everyone can select a valid license. Once you've got a license, you can then activate it. Yeah, thanks for that, Daniel. Yeah, so Daniel's just mentioned in chat that ownership of system registration. So this is all important when it comes to digital forensics and incident response services. So in the event of somebody doing like a really bad thing and there's like criminal proceedings, you want to make sure that it is a clean chain of custody, first of all, and second of all, that we don't have any sort of like implications. So, if someone's received information they shouldn't have and it's in the middle of a criminal investigation, it can either jeopardize that investigation or it can put some undue attention on the person who inadvertently received that information. Okay, I'll assume that everyone has managed to get their registration sorted out. So we are now clear to click on Next. And now we set the date and time and the time zone. This will automatically synchronize the time and date because my time zone is Australia, Perth, and automatic synchronization is enabled. I can just click on Next. If you need to change yours, go ahead and change it, click on Update, and then click Next. Now, Storage Manager, because these are virtual machines, storage will not show up, but in an actual physical appliance, you should see at the very least the extended storage. This is really just confirmation that that storage is there and it's working as intended. Yeah, again, any questions, feel free to reach out to us, support@redpiranha.net. And then the next step is where we set our instant and event services. So there is a SIEM agent running on the appliance itself, but what we need to do is we also need to establish our contact details. So when there is an incident and we need our security engineers to reach out to an authorized party, they will be using this information here. So the primary contact information, going back to registration, is the entity being protected. So the main contact for that entity being protected, in this case, it will be Carl Summer. You can use any customer you like. The office number, I'm just going to go like that. And the mobile number, like that. There's Carl. 821@gmail.com. Now, the secondary contact information can be a secondary contact within the organization being protected, or this is also a good place to put the contact details for the MSP. So, SP, in this case. So hopefully you get the picture. You understand this is how this is all working. And this, of course, can be changed. So if there's like a change of details for a primary contact or secondary contact, it can be updated later. So once we're happy with this, we choose our preferred contact. Let's say email. We'll submit it. And it'll take a couple of seconds to come back. So all this information is being fed back into Orchestrate. Now you'll see here the SIEM service level, or the service level here, where it is silver, gold, or platinum. What you do here at the moment, we set this on the appliance, and this depends on the SIEM service that you've subscribed to. So if you are not aware of what service level you are using, 9 times out of 10, it will be silver, because that comes standard with the appliance. If you have an upgraded service level, gold or platinum, you'll know about it because it's a separate invoice item. And there is, of course, like an upgrade charge for that as well. So what I'll do, I won't ask any of you to do this, but I will just, for demonstration purposes, show you that we got silver. Let's click on gold. So we'll start off, have a look at silver. These are the log files monitored when we're looking at our silver service level. Sorry, just one sec, guys. Sorry, yeah, Daniel has just let me know that we've got some people stuck on verifying licenses. All right, Jekka, if you could just quickly reach out to Nathan and Andrew. Anyone else who is having trouble with verifying a license, please let us know. We may need to have licenses created for those accounts that the appliances are being registered to. So just have those details handy. So in my case, it would have been Carl Stummer. So that's the license we're having it assigned to. Right, while that's being sorted out, we will go back and have a look at our silver monitoring. So this is our silver SIEM monitoring we've got. Now, I'll do this. I don't need you guys to do it. I can go and say gold. Update. It'll then go and talk to orchestrate, come back with verification that it's all good to go. It should come back any second now. There we go. Now it's just updated. There's silver, the service level is gold, and let's have a look at the logs being monitored here. So if we were to say, look at all of our logs, you'll see that the number of logs has changed. So as you increase your SIEM service level, you're increasing the amount of monitoring going on with that appliance, and you're also increasing the level of engagement of our security operations center. So the silver is your basic, gold is a little more advanced, and then all the bells and whistles will come with platinum. And that's when you've got our security operations center pretty much fully engaged and watching your network at all times, which is very handy. All right, I'm going to set that back to silver. Yeah, good tip there, Daniel. So if anyone's having problems with registering or verifying the license, try opening the same page again under a different tab. Andrew, you can send, let's see. Yeah, just send it through to support@redpiranha.net. Now, is anyone else having problems with verifying the license? Is it just Nathan and Andrew, or is there others? Because it could just be you're trying to assign it to the wrong, to the wrong account. In which case, I mean, that's a pretty simple fix. All right, thank you very much, Jekka. Jekka's on it. We can all breathe a sigh of relief. Okay. Well, for the rest of us, because we are, there we go. We need to generate licenses. There we go. Thank you, Jekka. All right, let's push on. We've got next to push. Now, this is where things could slow down a little bit because we've got a whole bunch of devices sitting on our AWS instance, and then they'll be pulling down lots of applications and installing them. So this is the fun part where we get to go through the marketplace and we get to select our applications. Now, at the moment, the marketplace is just a software repository. It's just a place where we keep our applications so you can install them as you want or as you need. What we're going to do is we're going to go through, start with system configuration, select everything to install. So get those mice going and select all the things. Now I'll take this opportunity to say a couple of things about our applications. All the applications are available on all of the appliances. We are not going to nickel and dime you. You know, if you want to have VPN, great, you've got VPN, just click a button, install it, and you're good to go. And it's like with any other application in Crystal Eye. So you'll right away you'll notice a difference in the way that we handle things compared to our competitors. Now there are two exceptions, or I think maybe three. with applications being allowed on all devices. That is high availability and multi-WAN. Now, these two applications are not available on the Series 10 simply because the Series 10 doesn't have enough network ports to support those features. That's it. That's the only reason. Okay, so now that we've got all of our applications selected, we should be able to click on Next. Yeah, thanks for letting us know, Nathan. Time server invalid error. I would probably refresh the page or double check your date and time configuration and make sure it's set to automatically update. Now, we've got a chance to review the applications we wanted to install. Because we said we wanted to install all of them, they are all there. We do have a chance right now. So let's say if we wanted to remove Software RAID Manager, we can delete that from the list of applications to be installed. I'm not going to do that because we're going to try and demonstrate all of them in the short amount of time we have. So we're going to click on Download and Install. Okay, yeah, thanks, Nathan. Maybe try Perth, WA. Thanks, Daniel. Yes, you verify a one-day license. Okay. Now, before we have the opportunity to do some things, another little warning. You'll notice as you, I suppose, explore the Crystal Eye appliance, you'll notice that there's an application called vulnerability scanning. I understand that it's very, very tempting to kick off a vulnerability scan to see what you can find on the Azure tenancy. First of all, you're not going to find much. And also, second of all, please don't, because this is actually very process intensive and you do run the risk of really taxing the AWS instance that we have, and it will make things difficult for everyone else as well. So as sexy as vulnerability scanning may seem, please resist the urge. Nathan, still having problems. That's weird. String Perth not working either. All right. I'm tempted, Jacker, if we've got a spare, if we could assign a spare Crystal Eye appliance to Nathan so he can at least catch up with us. All right. This is actually a really good time if anyone's got any questions while we're waiting for the software to install. Excellent time to pop your question in chat. All right. What we can do, we can actually click on Next. It's still going to do the same thing. Yeah, okay, that's right. We used to be able to do this in 4.0. We'd be able to click on Next and then go on and do a risk analysis. So you'd be able to go through and have a look at all the critical controls or the recommended security controls, and you'd be able to pass the time by filling in a questionnaire and just getting an idea on your level of risk in regards to the application of Essential 8 or other well-known risk mitigation strategies. All right. Daniel, this might be a good time for us to have a quick chat about our partnership with ESET, maybe. And
Yeah, certainly. So, as many of you are aware, we do have a strategic partnership with European firm ESET, who are providing us a world-class EDR platform for our security engineers. So our SOC analysts and Security Operations Center feeds the data from endpoints through to the Crystal Eye Security Operations Center, giving us a better oversight and a better view into devices that are maybe misbehaving, that try to remove themselves from the corporate environment. So the threat intelligence that we have from both sources is able to actually provide us a much better capability in terms of mapping out an organization's current status, whether or not they are following the rules, whether or not they're following policies, and ensure that when devices do go rogue or remove themselves from the network, our managed service is able to actually pick up on that. We have had a case recently where one of our clients who has the full product suite and services deployed to their environment, we were able to remediate a threat which was contained within the network environment anyway. It was not able to communicate outside of the environment. However, it was still misbehaving on one of the devices, which was being re-provisioned by one of the staff there. So we did notice that obviously it's important to ensure that quarantining does occur. However, there may be instances where people need access to machines or they're offline and perhaps they haven't been fully understanding the environment. And so, yes, we're able to pick up on that. Anytime somebody tries to re-provision, we can ensure that it's isolated and protected. So fantastic work there from our security operations team, and really valuable to see that those products and services are able to work in tandem, which is a fantastic way to approach the managed detection and response capabilities of anyone's environment.
Yeah, and from a personal note, I'm actually quite pleased we are working with ESET. With my sort of time as an MSP, about 3 decades worth. I've managed to work with a few endpoint protection applications, and ESET is one of those that's always produced. Hasn't caused any troubles. With the likes of our friends at Semantic or Norton back in the day.
Yes, so, there are a few out there.
and trends. Yeah, so there are a few there which sort of bring up memories of oh god, this
certainly
again.
With Kaspersky being taken out of the equation due to sanctions in the region. Yes, there are limited companies that are as focused on research and development as we are. Certainly something that we highlight as an important stepping stone into the threat intelligence community is funneling a lot of our funds back into the research and development teams to provide a better product, develop new technologies, and essentially looking to always improve the service that we provide.
And sort of speaking from the MSP's point of view, this is one of the things I like about Red Piranha, in that we really work with the MSP. There is really no incentive for us to, I suppose, steal clients. It's not in our DNA. It's also not in our systems. Our Orchestrate system actually looks for existing email addresses. So, if somebody comes up, like from an end client, if they come up and they try to place an order directly with us, we actually check to see if that account is already under a partner's account. So that way that the business transaction is tracked and the relationship between the partner and the end client is respected. And also, me coming from the MSP side of things, this is something that's actually very near and dear to my heart. I understand the value that end clients have for MSPs. They're essentially your livelihood, and I'll defend that livelihood as if it was my own. So I'll look after you guys for sure, because it's very important that we have that trust not only in our culture, but also in the technology that supports the culture
and
too.
having the resources available as well is such a key part of the ecosystem of cybersecurity. Having that cybersecurity mesh architecture and ensuring that the staff that are supporting it, the qualified engineers that have an understanding of many different aspects, are able to actually be on call, ready to launch an incident response team, an incident response plan, put it in action, and actually work with you, either through the client or through our partners, to really cover off anything that could go wrong, and to understand all the bases that you may come up against. It's a fantastic synergy. Hate to use the word.
Yeah. Oh God, yes, that word. Yeah. All right. So I don't know about you guys, but my installation is completed. So I can now click on next. I'll charge ahead because we're short on time, and you guys are free to play with this for an hour or two after the event anyway. So you get to jump in and have a lot of fun. So I'm going to click on next. We'll do our confirmation that we're okay with moving on. All the checks and balances. Yeah, and our security operations center, just a word about these guys. They live and breathe response. It's like warriors. They've spent all their time training for war, and when they finally get a chance, they get kind of excited. So they're quite happy to jump in. All right. Now, okay, let's run down the panel here. So we've got our left-hand side navigation panel. We've got our system dashboard. Let's take you for a quick tour. We've got our interface reports. Obviously, the LAN interface has got nothing connected because it's virtual. We've got our external interface, so we can see how much traffic is going over our WAN interface. We've got our process CPU usage and also our memory usage. So you get to see at a glance how hard the system is working, and when when a processor starts to spike, or it gives you instant feedback as to how things are going. So you can look at our usage over the last week, the last hour, 3 hours, 12 hours, 24 week, 3 days, and a month. And you can also look at the CPU usage as individuals. So we can look at the different cores. So we can stop looking at core 3, or we can switch it back on again. We can see our average, and also we can see our current CPU usage as well. This gives a handy readout as to where all that processor time is going. So we can see here IDS, IPS, as you'd expect, is taking up a bulk of the load right now. So even though we're running at 5%, a lot of it's going to IDS, IPS, and yeah, it gives you a pretty good readout. You can also have the same thing with memory usage as well. You've got your application status. Special note, by default, web filter and the default web filter profile, they are disabled and stopped. The reason is you need to do some configuring with web filter in order for it to work properly. So we have it turned off by default. Everything else is running. And we can start things as needed. So force field, that should be running. This is quite often after you do a first time install. Click on start, and the application should start with no problem. It should start with no problem. Let's do a quick refresh. Yeah, force field, that's actually a really cool application as well, which I'll be pleased to show you guys in a few minutes. And there it is, it's running, fantastic. You've also got a readout of your events, like warning and critical events, shutdown and restart, users and groups. We can go in and have a look at users as well. Disk usage is pretty self-explanatory, and recent software activity. You can see software updates as they're installed, removed, or updated through this panel here. There's also through the software update application itself. A word about software updates. We do the software updates a lot like we do with updates for smartphone applications. So if there is an application in our set here that needs to be updated, either because of an updated feature or a security patch, or just anything that really needs to be done, we do have a regular update cycle, which is typically the second Wednesday or Thursday of the month. This month's going to be pushed out a bit because we've had a lot of extra stuff to check out. So there's been a lot of extra beta testing just through the sheer volume of the updates we've had to do. So that will be next week. We plan to do our next schedule update. And then, of course, if there's anything that has a severe impact that's like high risk that we need to patch right away, we actually do out-of-cycle updates. Now, on the big updates, so going from 4.0 to 4.5, we do plan on doing major releases from this point forward every 6 months. So we are now starting to gear up for releasing 5.0. We probably won't see it right away, but we are working towards that 6-month cadence. All right, onto the security dashboard. This is the fun one. We like to show our end users management types because, hey, let's face it, big maps and lines and things are pretty. I'll just squish this down so it works better for our presentation software here. Good. All right. So you get a rough sort of outline. You get a head-up display of your devices connected to your network. So total devices, mapped devices, unmapped devices, so you know you've got some work to do. And then VPN devices, so you know who's connecting in from where. On the left-hand side, we've got our IP attack map. So these are banned IP addresses that have done the wrong thing 3 times in a row and they get banned. We've got our alert map here, so we can see who's doing what from where. And then on the right-hand side, you've got your traffic stats. So we have a readout of the top protocols and top devices. So you can track down that very busy endpoint or that very often used protocol. So this is a nice, quick and easy way to find those weird anomalies. Below all this, we have our alerts for our IDPS or intrusion detection and prevention system. If you wanted to look into it, so let's say Germany, not too bad. Palestine, yeah, okay. Let's ask questions about Palestine. So this alert here, we click on that. And this also gives you an idea on how noisy it is out there on the internet. This device has only been running for maybe an hour tops. And we're already recording hits. So people trying to do the wrong thing. Come on, let's give it a click. Come on. Ooh, there's an automated actionable intelligence. We'll come back to that one. That's cool. Usually this is a bit quicker. And I'm actually tempted to jumping on one of my own hardware devices to take us through this. You know, I think I might do that in the interests of time. Let's get that done. All right, I'm quickly going to switch screens. Which one is which? Because they're now called the same name, which makes things confusing. There we go. Okay, found it. Right. All right, here's one I prepared earlier, say a few months earlier. And you can see it's pretty well populated with all sorts of information. So we can see a total number of devices. I've managed to map 13. I've still got 14 to go. No one's connected via VPN. We can see how busy the protocols and devices are. We've got our map. We've got our banned IP addresses. And we've got our alerts. So let's scroll down to something interesting. Potential corporate privacy violation, Android device connectivity check. Yes. Let's have a look at that. So we can click on this. And it gives us more information. Now, we can tune our IDPS rules. Usually this is something that's quite involved, and you really need to know how to use the IDPS engine and write rules for it. But fortunately, we've done a lot of that hard work for you. So we can quite easily change the actions of a rule. If I know that I don't want to have any sort of traffic coming over this port from that IP or so on, if I want to actually change the way this rule handles this sort of traffic, I can set it from alert to reject, or I can just choose to pass, allow it to pass anyway. So it will then silently pass through the filter. And that's how you tune an IDPS rule. So as you can see, really quite straightforward and quite easy. Now, I did mention the automated actionable intelligence, and I think now is a great time to talk about that. So under security configuration, force field, we'll see automated actionable intelligence. So force field, that's pretty basic, but the magic is our AAI, as we like to call it here. Now, managing a list of known bad actors is a lot of work, and we don't expect MSPs to do it. It's something we do daily, and we update it daily, so you don't have to. At the moment, as it stands, 470,580 known bad IP addresses have been identified through our threat intelligence, and obviously some will come, some will go. But we have actually used this a number of times to protect our clients well before an attack is launched. So, for example, when we were going from 2019 to 2020, thinking things couldn't possibly be worse, 2020 comes along and says, "Hold my beer," and all of a sudden we see these updates coming through. We noticed that there was some infrastructure being set up, so lots of domains with the word Medicare in them. So we managed to map this back to IP addresses, and we put these IP addresses in our known bad hosts list. And so we were effectively sort of just basically killing campaigns before they were even launched. So we were picking this up at the time where they were doing that battle space preparation. So automated actionable intelligence, we think, is one of those key areas where we're able to help partners and end users just defend against threats that they may not know, but we're aware of. Very, very useful. Okay, so we've done our dashboard, security dashboard, threat hunt dashboard. Now, threat hunt dashboards, this is a new one for 4.5. We've got our summary, which is very easy to read. We can see our top alerting countries. We can see the United States, this particular IP address, or these three IP addresses, quite active. So we could probably look into that a little further if we want to. Actually, speaking of looking in further into things, I did forget to let you guys know about another cool feature with our IDPS, which I'll just quickly demonstrate here. Let's say you get an alert and you want to know a bit more about it. Let's say this one here, undefined, handshake failure, very generic. And normally I wouldn't worry about this, but if I wanted to know more about it, we've got our escalate button. That escalate button, when clicked, gives you access to a field where you can drop in a comment and you can sort of ask a question about it, or just send a note to our Security Operations Center and then click submit. Don't click submit, but we're just doing this for demonstration purposes. So you want to say note goes here, and we'd pretend we click on submit. That will be sent to our Security Operations Center, and they will get back to you with advice on what to do in regards to that alert. So they might say it's nothing to worry about, you can disable that rule, or it's something that's okay, you can pass, or it is something that if you're not using that service, you probably should block access to it. So you've got access to that cybersecurity village where, once again, they live for this sort of thing. So you don't have to. Okay. Now, system configuration, let's see, threat hunt dashboard. Threat dashboard. Now, threat dashboard, this is also updated in 4.5, where we are able to create and save a template. So let's say you're looking for threat indicators or compromise indicators. So let's say 3CX. So we're all hopefully familiar with that 3CX breach, and we've managed to mitigate it. We've stopped using the 3CX client. We're going directly through the web interface. But just in case there's still something sitting on the network running a 3CX client, you are able to actually set up filters to filter out everything except for those 3CX IOCs. And once you've got that set up, you can then save it as a template. So at any time, you can come back to the threat dashboard and say, I want to see if there's any more 3CX traffic. And this gives you the ability to sort of look back over your work and make sure that it's actually taken effect. Very, very important to do that sort of post-action audit. We've also got the ability to do our network threat hunting. So we can go by MAC address, device types. So we know there's unknown, that's pretty busy. I would say that would be a large screen TV in a particular room. And that sort of checks out with our traffic over network IP. So there you go. It gives you an idea of what can be done. And we can really start to drill down, so we can have a look at top network IPs. You start to look into it all, with quite a bit of depth. All right. Also got the same thing with protocol activity and application activity. So let's have a look at our overview for application activity. So we can see PlayStation. Yes, it makes sense. A lot of that's been happening at the home network, YouTube, Netflix, Instagram. Yep. Okay, no surprises there. But if we were to see something weird, Limelight Networks. I mean, this is not familiar to me. I'll be asking questions of people when I get home. And we'll pretend we don't see that application on the far right. You can see that my teenage son has been busy. You try to tell them about it, but they just won't listen. Anyway, that's the threat hunting dashboard. We do also have AI alerts and analysis. It needs to build up, obviously, so it needs to do training. But once that's done, we should be able to get an email like AI alerts sent through the email. I've not had a chance to set it up yet at home. System configuration. Hosts and groups, this is something that we will be covering in 4.5. Crystal Eye Certified Engineer. This is a really handy way for us to manage endpoints and then group them. So this makes the management of these assets on the network a lot easier. So instead of having to, like when you set up a rule, you then have to set up all the separate IP addresses. You can actually set these groups, and it's like a handle to that group or a pointer to that group, where you can set it up once here, and then you can implement those groups over and over again through different parts of the appliance. Software updates, super important. So once again, we have software updates delivered quite often. We can see the software is up to date. But it's worth noting that when we do major system updates, so going from 4.0 to 4.5, it's a matter of having that downloaded, which is done automatically. You can then set the default. So it's like setting up a multiple boot system or a dual boot system. So, if you want to start running 4.0 all of a sudden, you can just do that by clicking on set default. And there we go. So we've got all of our application updates there as well. High availability. Again, this is something we can cover in the Crystal Eye Certified Engineer course, but this is the ability for us to take two appliances and have them act as one. So if there is some sort of a failure, the other one kicks in, and so you've got that failover ability between two appliances. So some sites will find this not only very interesting, but it's also mandatory in some cases. So we've got that covered too. Again, this is something that we cover with our Series 40. That's quite a beast, that one. A lot of fun to build. All right. Let's see if there's anything else we need to cover here in system configuration. I'm going to say no, because looking at the time, we've got a motor. Network control, infrastructure, network settings. So when we want to mess with our network, we can do it here under infrastructure network settings. So you can set up things like VLAN. So let's say LAN 1. If I want to set up a VLAN for LAN on the LAN 1 interface, I can click on Add Interface and VLAN. And there you go. Fill in the details, enable the DHCP server, which is on the Crystal Eye appliance as well. You're done. That's it. And as long as your infrastructure handles VLAN tagging, you are sorted out. And again, this comes back to our hosts and groups. So you can actually assign hosts and groups, firewall rules, IDPS rules to different VLANs. So we can actually really implement that segmentation properly. We got WAN 1 PPPoE. So if you've got PPPoE, you are covered. We find that very important. Coming up in version 5, we do have some partners asking for a way to throttle the WAN connections because, I don't know, ISPs are lazy and they expect the subscribers to do the network management for them. And if they don't, it means they either get throttled to some, I suppose, some speed that's really not suitable, or they charge extra. So we are actually building that in. We listen to our partners, we listen to our end clients, and we are implementing updates as we go. Network diagnostics, no, that'll be more of a Crystal Eye certified engineer thing. Security configuration, we've got our advanced firewall, force field, we've covered that. IDPS, we've covered just the basics of that one. That'll be another Crystal Eye certified engineer. Passive encryption control. This is another new one for Crystal Eye 4.5. This allows us to apply security filters or security management for IoT devices. As we know, IoT devices are difficult to manage when it comes to telling them how they should be communicating with the outside world. We can't really have that control. So what we do is we are implementing that control at the network level. We can group these appliances. As you can see, they're all like IoT devices, and there they are there. And we can have the passive encryption control status on, and then over a period of a few days or maybe a week or two, it builds up a profile or a baseline for what is accepted as safe for those IoT devices in a group. And once we're happy with that, we can capture the secure state, and it will actually set that baseline. So if there's anything outside of that, we'll get an alert. And when we receive an alert, we can actually apply an action to it. Now, fortunately, nothing, or unfortunately, nothing has gone outside of what we call a safe baseline, but we can choose to either allow that traffic to pass, which we'd call pinholing, or we can actually block it so we can start taking action. So we can isolate that appliance. It'll still be functional. It can still be used on the network. It just can't communicate, say, with that command and control server out there on the big bad internet. Secure Web Gateway, that's been updated. This again is a bit of an advanced one that we will be covering. You can look up our manual, which is docs.redpiranha.net, and learn more about this. But this is one of these things that you really need to understand what you're doing in order to properly implement it. But when you do, it's actually quite powerful in the way it can protect your endpoints. Okay. Quickly, compliance controls. We've got Azure Active Directory. We understand that Microsoft are making a huge inroad into cybersecurity. So we've leveraged their technology. You can now get your Azure Active Directory sort of instance set up. You can pull down that information that's stored on the Crystal Eye appliance itself, and you can set your retention period. And that is not stored on the Azure instance where it's going to cost you an arm and a leg in storage. But you've got your summary. We can look at our OneDrive dashboard with all these different signals to look out for. And of course, same signals across SharePoint, user audit, mail, and we've also got our general threat intelligence and security compliance dashboard. So for those organizations using Microsoft 365 Professional 1 and up, you've got access to some pretty powerful tools there. We have DLP, incident response, network PCAP, so PacketCap, we've got the packet capture analysis built into the Crystal Eye appliance itself. So if we need to do a packet capture analysis, there's no waiting around. We can have our security operations engineers jump on, do a packet capture, and we're starting to get a good understanding within minutes, not hours, days, or weeks. And of course, vulnerability scanning. This is something we'll cover later on, but you can see I've managed to schedule a demo scan, and it comes back with a rather nice report that's been curated by our friends in security operations. Just a note, vulnerability scanning is $600 per scan, but when you add it up, you're actually having to build it yourself. It's actually a drop in the ocean. It's something that a small business can afford to do, say, once every quarter. Of course, we've got all of our reports, all pretty self-explanatory there. We are running out of time, so I'm going to rush through this. And of course, a marketplace, so you can add and remove applications as you need. Be aware it goes over 2 pages. So if you don't see what you want on the first page, jump on to the second page and just get those last 5 applications that sort of go off the end. And of course, we've got our support. So you can submit a support ticket and you can just email support@redpiranha.net. We've also got forums, which can be found at forums.redpiranha.net. And the account dashboard, this is Orchestrate. This is the store link. And if you need any support, quite often you'll send an email to us and we'll come back and say, please give us authority to say that we can get onto the system and enable support. In which case you just go to support and click on enable, and that's your remote support. Excellent, and I think that about covers it. So I'm going to switch back to our presentation. All right, so that's covered pretty much everything there. All right, and we've got our support channels, got that there, we've covered that. And of course, our friendly account managers, they are really friendly. Now, speaking of friendly account managers, I'll just hand you back to Daniel.
Thanks, Ben. And just wanted to quickly speak on the managed detection and response capability, which we did already somewhat cover in the preamble. So yes, while we're waiting for the applications to download, we did go over a little bit about the managed detection and response. But here is total coverage across your network, endpoints, and cloud. It is to ensure that not only the Crystal Eye platform is in use, but also the endpoint detection and response. So we're very happy to have this product launched. It is available for both partners and end clients to ensure that they are covered across the entire ecosystem. And again, it's integrating those 2 streams of world-class threat intelligence, ensuring that your alerts are dealt with and responded to, and ensuring that you still have the capacity to configure environments based on group policy or the client's objectives. It's really about ensuring that we cover as many possible points of entry for would-be attackers and ensure that your clients are protected against all adversaries out there in the market. So very happy to be launching this product and having it as a fully managed, integrated services and product suite. It does cover your cloud office security, does have obviously your ability to have multiple points of mail security, so with our secure email gateway, and also the mail security for the office environments, and utilizing basically the best in breed of research and development from security focused organizations like Red Piranha and ESET. So fully managed by our SOC. It is a powerful combination that we're very proud to release to the market. So feel free to get in touch should you want any further information or training in that area. We will obviously work with you to ensure deployments are done smoothly and easily and rolled out in the best way possible. So Ben, back to you.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, you're on mute. The song of our people. Okay. All right, so from here, what do we do next? You can purchase a Crystal Eye not for resale appliance. So you can put it onto your own network in the office. and just get to know how it all works. You can also undertake our Crystal Eye Certified Engineer training. As I've mentioned, got 4.5 is being developed, and we will be presenting it next week, both in person and also as a part of as a webinar. So it's going to be one of those nice hybrid events. Develop your knowledge base. So yes, we've got docs.redpiranha.net, as you know. Talk to us about opportunities or work with us to offer solutions. So you can either get the appliances directly from us, if it's a nice and simple deployment, or you can actually engage us to help with doing like big jobs like RFQs. All right, we can enhance client engagements with our partner scoping workbook, take part in the partner alliance, partner assurance and sales enablement programs. And of course, please join our forum, share your feedback and suggestions. If you make a suggestion, there's a very good chance that we'll take it into account. Just as an example, we are going to be enabling two-factor authentication on the initial login screen. That is coming soon. And this was a request from one of our partners. So, we do listen and we implement it as quickly as we can. All right, this takes us to the end of the presentation. If you do have any questions, please put them into chat and we'll be more than happy to answer them, I suppose, because it's now gone into overtime. But look, thank you all very much for your patience and thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. And again, if you've got any questions, please drop them into chat. Hopefully, Andrew, Nathan, you guys have managed to get things sorted out. It's all working as it should be, but you do have time to play with it.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Be sure to shoot us through any communication if you need, and I will, Andrew, get to you about the integration. We'll make sure that we get you all set up and ready to go.
Fantastic, yes. I'll stick around for a bit longer, and then we'll play that video, and then we'll be done. So I'll give you guys another 5, maybe 10 minutes, and wait for any questions you might have. Oh, that's a good question there, Nathan. So for the application inspection, can you narrow down to see users' IPs accessing using the application? Yes, we can, and especially when we start using things like Active Directory authentication, we are able to sort of pin it down to the actual AD account itself. So yeah, it is something we can do. Yeah, good point there, Andrew. Now, something to note, in my appliance, I'm actually running the beta software. So if there's something that you're not seeing on yours, but you're seeing on mine, there's a good chance that it's going to be released, say, in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, so you're actually, through my system, you're getting a sneak peek. It's kind of nice. How do you narrow down? All right, this is when we start getting into filtering. Let's see, you've got to have your hosts and groups set up. So there's a bit of setup involved. So you've got to have things prepared so it can allow you to filter. But yeah, it is something that can be covered. And if you do need more support, you're more than welcome to contact us, support at redpiranha.net. There's also the docs site, which we are continually updating. I don't think we've actually got time to go through the actual nuts and bolts of how we narrow down, but it is something that can be done. Any of your Azure apps intrusive if wanting to start playing? Oh, okay. So I'm assuming, Andrew, that you want to connect your own Azure instance. I don't think it's intrusive. So no, it pulls down information from the tenancy. It doesn't change anything. It's read only. So hopefully that answers your question. Yep, cool. Some good questions coming in there. That's excellent. No, thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Nathan. All right. Okay, we've had a few other guests drop off now, so it's just Andrew, Nathan, and we've got Addy. How you doing, Addy? All right. Well, unless there's any other questions from the two guys doing the heavy lifting in chat, I think we can call that a show. That's done. We all good? All silent? Fantastic. All right, guys. See you next time. Thanks very much. And I'll play the music.